You're not listening to me. Will you just listen to me? I'm leveraging my visibility with this channel to introduce a new series of content that's going to be appearing hopefully on a regular basis. And the reason for this is that um, I'm thinking that the content that's going to be shared will help you not only in your personal relationships, but in your business relationships. And the operative word with what I'm sharing with you is listening. So I urge you to listen to what I share. And if you like the content that's been provided in this new series, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. More importantly, share it among others. And I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. You're not listening to me. Will you just listen to me? These are some of the things that are said in the course of interaction. They're very common. And this is the first installment of a new series that I'm coming up with, in which I'm going to look into listening being an overlooked part of the communication process. Now, I wrote a book about 15 years ago that talked about listening in the context of a marriage. The admonition was to the male spouse listening to the female spouse, but the emphasis went both ways. The emphasis still was on the husband listening to the wife. Writing that book was a pet project of mine for a couple of reasons. At that time, I wanted to prove to my then spouse that I could write about anything that I wanted because I had that creative capacity as a writer. I mentioned in the book that she acknowledged that when she met me as a writer and she married me as a writer. And truth be said, I divorced her even still as a writer at heart, although none of the money that I earned in recent years can be traced to writing. So let me get this out the way as well. I do not have any active teaching certifications, nor have I ever had any on communication. I do not have a background in psychology. I am not a relationship counselor. It can be argued that I may not even be qualified to even talk about certain things about relationships because I'm twice married and twice divorced. In short, I do understand that one of the biggest complaints people make when disagreements arise is one person claims to the other person that he or she isn't or hasn't been listening to them. In that book, I used primary communication theory that I learned and some Bible based principles that as my foundation for the writing content. I'm sure that the communication theory that I learned is outdated, but it may still be applicable. Perhaps over time, I'll access some of my daughter's communication theory books and apply what I've learned from her material. Then again, I may simply do my own research and gather new, updated information. Most people who know me are aware of the relationship I have with my daughter. We talk on a regular basis, virtually daily. Anyone sees us together knows what's up. One thought that came to mind as I began organizing my thoughts for this initial installment was about God being in the communication process. And here's where I considered my relationship with my daughter. A child talks to their parent for wisdom, knowledge, understanding, compassion, love, and direction. The child's hopes are that the parent is listening to him or her. Their frustration is when they're in situations when they feel as if the parent wasn't listening. Case in point, I'm reminded of two situations involving my daughter. The first occurred when she was in elementary school. She complained about her mouth hurting her. We were struggling financially at the time, but I realized that her mouth was far more important than the financial struggles. The second situation occurred when she was in high school. At the time, it seemed as if something was wrong with her every single week. She was in cheerleading, and I can't count the times when we took her to urgent care about something that was wrong with her from her practices, be it her feet, wrists, back, and whatever else. Also, in her 10th grade year, her attending school became an issue. It also didn't help that she had pneumonia in both the fall and spring semesters. The worst of the two bouts occurred in the spring semester. She was so sick that I recall her sending me a text message indicating just how bad it was for her. Once she was treated for the pneumonia, I I actually had to apologize to her, telling her that I needed to have listened to my child. And that has stayed with me. In fact, we've talked about that from time to time. So then what is the communication process between us and God? We're told that God desires fellowship with us. We're told that God speaks to us by his spirit. He speaks to us through his word. We're told that God appears to us in dreams. He speaks to us through his prophets, teachers, evangelists, pastors, and apostles. God desires for us to listen to him. It says, incline your ear and come to me. Hear, and your soul shall live. So, how do we primarily communicate with God? Well, the primary communication is through prayer. But then, does God desire to listen to us? It actually says, cast your cares upon him, for he cares for you. To cast means to toss and throw. What I mean by tossing and throw, let me give you a good example. Or if we can use this um, illustration. Recently, I got rid of a refrigerator and stove. I backed up my truck to a receptacle. There were a couple of things that were actually tossed or cast into the receptacle. So you're just heaving this load towards God, and he is that receptacle of your communication with him. He desires that type of communication. So you're having a conversation with someone who is willing to be the receiver to you. When you ask someone to tell you what's on their mind, particularly if it's someone who's of close relationship with you, this is what happens. You're casting your cares upon that person when they're asking you to tell them what's on your mind. You're saying that it's important to you. So you're saying that I'm open and willing to listen. Now I think back to my daughter again. She went through some turbulent times during her high school years. I've since learned that the turbulent times began much earlier. Her mother and I thought, for the most part, that she needed to be tougher. After all, that was pretty much the way kids from my era were raised. You couldn't be a soft ass. People were going to say and do a lot of things to you, but you've got to stand for yourself. More importantly, you have to grow a thicker hide. At least that's the way I was raised. In many situations, my daughter had cried, yelled, and basically used a bullhorn to tell us things that were wrong with her. She did it the best way she could. We didn't listen because we didn't understand what she meant. We listened based on our life experiences. Now, if I were to end this, one of the goals of communication is gaining an understanding. And the only way you can gain an understanding is by listening. Stay tuned. I'll be making regular installments of this series on listening. Again, it is a overlooked part of the communication process, and it's a hidden gem that can really make life better for you. So with that, look forward to seeing you at the next installment.